I've been a little bit leery of translated works just because I've tried some where it feels like they don't really flow and they feel like they're translated and they just don't feel like you're just reading a normal book. Thankfully, I did not have that problem at all with Blood of the Old Kings. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about Blood of the Old Kings by Sung-Il Kim and translated by Anton Her. And this one, the fun story behind is I had seen this on Book Outlet, and I just thought it was funny because Sung-Il Kim is the name of the main character at Kim's Convenience, a show that I love. And so I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun, but I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about it. Like I said, I'm a little bit leery of translated works. But then I saw Rabin from Only the Best Fantasy Novels, who I will tag below, talk about this. And for some reason, even though we read very different things, his recommendations typically always just end up working out for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to grab it. So I grabbed a copy, gave it a try. I do really like the cover. It's just a cool cover. It's very eye-catching as well. And I decided to give it a shot and did. This was a really nice surprise. And I, in fact, quite enjoyed this. Now, I don't normally read the blurbs. I just kind of tell you what the book is about. But I feel like this one deserves to be read because it's such an interesting description. And then I'll tell you because the start of it makes it sound like this is going to be way darker than it is. But anyway, here we go. We have their corpses are wrapped in chains and drained of magic to feed the unquenchable hunger for imperial conquest. Dark, right? Born with magic, Ariane has become resigned to her dark fate, but when the voice of a long-dead sorcerer begins to speak inside her head, she listens. There may be another future for her, if she's willing to fight for it. Miles away, beneath a volcano, a seven-eyed dragon also wears the Empire's chains. Before the Imperial fist closed around their lands, it was the people's sacred guardian. Lauren, a widowed swordswoman, is the first to kneel before the dragon in decades. She comes with a desperate plea and will leave with a sword of dragon fang in hand and a great purpose before her. In the heat of the imperial capital, Kane is known as a man who gets things done. When his best friend and mentor is found murdered, he will leave no stone unturned to find those responsible, even if it means starting a war. Step into a world of necromancy, murder, and twisted magic. A world in need of a hero. So of course, I'm reading it dramatically just because that was the most fun way to do it. But kind of a lot going on there, and that's one of those things where it sounds interesting, but sometimes it's really hard to tell from a blurb. The open, though, we open with Lauren, who I found to be the most interesting character, and who is an adult woman. She's widowed. She had a family. She's like a sword trainer, and so very different kind of character here. We have the younger person that's in a school for sorcery, and we'll get into that too. Is more kind of normal, and then Ariane, and then Kane, the character who's kind of like the mercenary guy for hire, problems mystery solving guy, whatever. Both I feel like those are more normal types of roles to see in a fantasy novel. But so starting with Lauren, which is where the book does open, immediately got me hooked and got me more interested in. And I feel like that was what I found the most interesting, although thematically those do tie together more than you might think from that description. So she goes in to kneel before the dragon and is trying to ask for help and ask for a boon because her people need help. They need a king. And she comes in and just is kind of demanding it, even though you have to be of royal lineage to approach the dragon. And so she just basically declares that she's, she call herself a princess because, there's probably a little bit of royal blood in everybody. And the dragon, instead of like getting mad and attacking her, is just kind of like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to call you a princess. You see it too with the way it's done. It does seem like it's significant that the dragon is maintaining she's a princess, like because you do need to be royal blood to come in here. But so with that character, we get to see she's just badass and has literally a dragon fang sword and ends up having like powers of fire and other stuff coming and just going and fighting these empire people, and so it's a lot of fun there. But exploring the idea of what it means to be royal, what it means to be a king, ultimately is something that we're really looking at here because. Lauren's on the path and she vows to become the next king of her people. So we're seeing that. And then she meets other people who call themselves kings, other people who want to be kings and are trying to go that route. And so we explore the idea of what makes a king in a really fascinating way. And I thought that was what for me I enjoyed the most about this book is that exploration. Now the other characters I think work as well. Ariane more so than the character herself. The interesting thing was what I talked about there with the corpses of sorcerers. And so the Empire uses sorcerer corpses as basically power generators. And so it's talked about in almost a more modern kind of setting. And this is sort of a weird setting because you it feels in some ways very like feudal setting, very like medieval, but also there's more to it. Like you have the power generators, you have like power armor and weapons and like machines of somewhat, and so it's kind of this like weird type of setting where it's fantasy but somewhat more advanced than you would normally get. Also is interesting, but that idea that it's a sorcerer, like you can either, if you have some use, you're going to be fine, but eventually they're going to just use you as a battery, basically, and they just use your body as a conduit to keep getting magic, which I feel like is on its own, like that right there, that could be its own story and could have easily, I think you could have done a whole big epic fantasy exploring that. The first thing I was explaining with Lauren and her journey also could have absolutely been its own fantasy story as well. And there's tons of stories that follow the like mystery solving, like the problem solver type of character in a fantasy city as well. So all three of these characters, it feels like, could have probably had their own story. This is one pretty short book overall. So the fact that it's and like just for the record too, this is small. Like the text is pretty good size. This is not a long book. This was very easy reading, very easy to get through, but it didn't feel like we were like just didn't have enough time. Sometimes when you try to do a lot here, it felt like we split time with the POVs pretty well actually, and because everything was ending up being tying together thematically, I didn't ever feel like this was rushed or that it just wasn't enough happening. And I think it worked really really well, and it does, like I said, it doesn't necessarily sound like it's going to be all coming together, but the other characters end up getting involved with different parts of like the Empire or different factions, what's going on, so it all really does tie together. And it has some twists again where it's things happen a little bit differently than what you, the reader, and also like the people in the story would expect. But it just had a lot of really good moments, and like I said, the exploration of what it means to be a king and to claim power, and just kind of that idea too that somebody can just go and claim it and make it true. I really like the way that it was handled, and just with the kind of difference with the characters, and each character felt very distinct and unique, and I think this did flow very very well, especially considering it is a translation. So I would definitely, apparently Anton Her is like a really well-known translator. I would be curious to try more stuff that he's translated, just because I like trying different things. This is really different, and this feels very different. From just kind of your run-of-the-mill Western fantasy. It has a lot of really cool elements, and it doesn't just feel stilted. So I don't know, maybe I just don't like Ken Liu when he translates, because his stuff always just feels so lifeless. And I've read he's one of the other well-known translators, so I've happened to read some stuff from him too. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. It's another winner for books that Rabin recommends, and only the best fantasy novels. Again, can't recommend checking out his channel enough if you just want different stuff. He picks up so many interesting things. I've picked up quite a few really unique books that I've ended up really enjoying from him, and so I highly recommend you check out his channel. Just tons of great stuff if you're looking for different stuff. But Blood of the Old Kings is definitely, I think, interesting to check out. Now, apparently, I did just find out from Rabin there is actually a sequel to this that just came out in October. I had no idea, so I will definitely have to try to check that out. Apparently, it's quite different, so I'm really curious to see how I will feel about this one. But this was very engaging, very easy reading. It was fun, it was badass, it was thoughtful, and it had really interesting exploration of theme, tying it all together. Just really, really solid book. Definitely recommend checking it out if you want to try something a little bit different. That's really it for this one. So let me know your thoughts if you've read this or if this sounds interesting to you. Would love to hear from you. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description as always for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.